Good evening. I'm Malcolm McDowell. As familiar as I am with the filmmaking process, I too enjoy being part of the movie audience and getting the daylights scared out of me. This leads to the question, why do we so enjoy being frightened? What is it about the sensation of fear that is so enticing? What happens to us physically and emotionally when we get scared?
Well, it's too horrible to describe.
Does everyone enjoy this feeling? Or are some of us more inclined to subject ourselves to terror than others? Over the next 30 minutes, we'll take an interesting look at one studio's love affair with fear. From Dracula to Frankenstein, from the silent horror classics to the live phenomenon of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Florida, together we'll discover why fear is a universal monster. For generations now, October the 31st has been a time of the year when we celebrate the macabre. In particular, people seek out thrills, chills, and things that make their heart thump in the night. While we have all at one time or another enjoyed a good, scary story, some of us seek out these thrills more than others. Who are these people? And why do they subject themselves to the terror of horror films and events like Halloween Horror Nights?
A wide range of personalities that enjoy thrill-seeking. Within that group of people, we probably have two different groups of people. One group that experiences physical thrill-seeking. They will do things like jump from an airplane or drive fast. And another group that enjoys the experience of emotional thrill-seeking, that will enjoy something like going to a horror movie. Walking through a haunted house type of attraction is the combination of the emotional and the physical, because there are things happening that's more than just seeing it on a movie screen. It's live. You're walking through the set.
Traditionally, people have sought the refuge of the plush seats, the dim flickering light, and the magic of the silver screen to get away from it all. To be transported to another world.
I bid you welcome.
A world full of madmen, monsters, and things that would make your skin crawl. The world of horror. Horror films have been the staple of the movie-going experience since the silent era. Early audiences were sent running from their seats at the mere sight of the likes of Lon Chaney in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I think horror films speak to something very fundamental, something almost primal in all of us. It's a psychological desire, if not need, that we all have. And I think, therefore, there will always be horror movies.
When Lon Chaney's horrific Phantom of the Opera was unmasked in 1925, it marked the beginning of one studio's relentless pursuit to make audiences scream. That studio was Universal.
Universal Pictures pretty much cornered the market on horror films. It's not that they had any patent or copyright in any literal way. Anyone else could have made these films, but hardly anybody did.
Universal Studios, absolutely was they did the champagne of monsters. You know what I mean? They had the best monsters you could ever, imagine.
Think of what Universal was responsible for. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy,
The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon,
Bride of Frankenstein,
The Werewolf of London,
Phantom of the Opera, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, all these different characters.
I am Dracula.
In 1931, Bela Lugosi made horror film history by portraying the most sinister vampire of all.
Ouch! It's just a scratch.
I love the idea that he sleeps in a coffin and he's supposed to be dead. You know, he drinks blood. You know, I mean, he was a weird guy.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Close on the heels of Dracula, Universal allowed audiences to witness, before their very eyes, the birth of its most enduring monster in Frankenstein.
It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Boris Karloff both touched and terrified audiences with his portrayal of a creature thrust into a world it barely understood.
Dracula and Frankenstein are among the most familiar icons in the world. I would say their recognition factor is on a par with that of Santa Claus.
Excellent.
I mean, you don't have to know anything about their movie history to know who they are. Universal has been at the forefront of scaring the pants off America.
One of the scariest moments I ever remember seeing is in the original Mummy. And that's where this supposedly dead figure, dead for centuries, wrapped in gauze and bandage, suddenly starts to come alive. And you're not sure if it's going to or not. And it's kind of creepy. You don't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden you see just the tiniest slit of an opening. Wow. I mean, that is an extraordinary moment.
Given their appearances, it's easy to understand how one could be scared by all sorts of monsters. But as time went on, audiences and the things that scared them became more sophisticated. No longer fantastical. A monster could now be a seemingly ordinary person.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Like Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Psycho is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Psycho is one of the best horror movies ever made.
The impact that it had, I think, was as great, if not greater, in its day, 1960, as Frankenstein was 30 years earlier. It scared the bejesus out of people.
What we're dealing with here in terms of, fear, is something that's actually real and tangible, I mean, there actually could be like a Norman Bates living right next to me now.
Indeed, Psycho made popular a whole new notion of horror. That the thing we fear needn't be a vampire in Transylvania, but a local boy right in our own home. Whether in the movie theater or at the theme park, audiences continue to demand a new level of realism from their horror experience. Back in 1940, audiences were terrified by Lon Chaney Jr.'s largely off-screen transformation into the Wolfman. By 1981, thanks to advances in special makeup effects, audiences were treated to a more graphic metamorphosis in American Werewolf in London. And today, special effects technology has taken an even greater step forward.
Computers are actually changing the face of monsters for the future. Say, for example, in Jurassic Park, most of the dinosaurs were created in the computer. And, you know, it's a nightmare come to life, and it's mesmerizing.
From Psycho to Jurassic Park, filmmakers have always enjoyed scaring their audiences. However, it is the special effects artisans that actually brought their vision to life. When we come back, we'll take a look at how those unique individuals work their magic. Movie audiences around the world have come to expect a lot from their cinema. The mark of a good horror film has always been its ability to create a terrifying reality for the audience.
Capturing physical realism is very, very important to the success of an attraction or a film. The more realistic it is, the more likely someone is to believe that that's actually happening, believe that that could happen to them.
With such technological advances in special effects and makeup technologies, it's no wonder that modern horror fans have grown to expect a level of realism inconceivable only 30 years ago. Part chemist, part engineer, part cosmetologist, part madman. It takes a unique kind of person to become a special effects makeup master. Not surprisingly, specialists in this line of work are very few and far between.
Academy Award winner Rob Bottin is one such individual, known for creating some of the most memorable special makeup effects in movies like RoboCop, The Thing, and Total Recall. Rob has brought a new level of realism to audiences worldwide.
A special makeup effects artist is basically, like a magician that works on people by using, like rubber and cosmetics and different sort of makeup-like illusions to create basically a magic trick of transforming the person into something he's not. A man into a monster. I'm always thinking about monsters. When I was a little boy, I actually, because I was like horribly afraid of the dark, would dream about monsters in vivid detail. When I was a kid, I was like about 5 years old, and I saw Frankenstein for the first time. I looked at the word in the TV guide, and I saw this long word that looked actually scary. My mother said, "You're not going to watch that. You're not going to turn on the TV to watch that." I snuck in my room, turned on the TV, and when Boris Karloff, comes through the door for the first time and you see that, dead-looking corpse with the flat head, I just, I fell in love. He's so wonderfully done by this makeup artist named Jack Pierce. To this day, you really couldn't make a better Frankenstein monster than the one, in the original Frankenstein. No way. And you couldn't, beat the creature from the Black Lagoon. know, here you have a man from head to toe completely transformed, you know, by having gills all over it. And the face was no longer that of a man. It was more like part man, part dinosaur, fish man. I worked on a film once where the director gave me complete artistic freedom to come up with anything I wanted. The movie was called The Thing. I had just like try to think of every frightening image, like when a dog turns and you see like a certain look in its eye, and snakes and bits and pieces of spiders, anything that's, you know, sort of frightening. For the special effects makeup artists to deliver the best scare they possibly can, the creature has to look absolutely real. If it doesn't, you know, you're going to be looking at it and you're not going to be convinced, you're not going to be scared of it because, you know, you're looking at a magic trick. My favorite scene in The Thing was a scene where the monster turns himself into a man and then fakes a heart attack, thinking that everyone will leave him alone and think that he's dead. But unfortunately for the monster, all the guys try to jumpstart his heart again with defibrillators. He doesn't like that electric shock, so his stomach actually turns into a large set of jaws.
Sir?
And while he's keeping the doctor occupied, his head and his neck stretch down off of the table and detach, and the head itself, you know, grows spider legs, and it runs out of the room.
You gotta be kidding.
The great thing about it is like to go to sleep and really have a good juicy nightmare. You know, that's like, you know, that's where my monsters come from.
Of course, Mother Nature has produced some pretty nasty monsters of her own. Some of them run loose at Halloween Horror Nights, while others run amok on the silver screen.
Many of the most memorable big bug movies like Tarantula and others were products of Universal. They've always been out ahead in anticipating what the public wanted to be frightened by.
If you're talking about how to manipulate an audience and do it in a way that they jump with fright, and there are few movies in the history of motion pictures as good as Jaws for doing that.
That's my favorite monster movie. You know, a lot of people don't think of it as a monster movie, but it is. But you have a monster that is absolutely real. We all know that sharks exist. Nobody has to prove that sharks exist. That's already a given. And when that shark pops out of the water when you're not expecting it, you just say, like, God, you know, hey, these are my friends. You know, I don't want these people to leave.
As terrifying as horror movies have become, fans looking for the ultimate scare still demand a more dynamic experience. When we come back, we'll see why the phenomenon of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Florida is the next step in the evolution of horror.
I proclaim Halloween Horror Nights officially open!
One need only to look at the phenomenon of the annual pilgrimage to Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights for evidence that people find being scared to death entertaining and fun. It is at this time of the year that Universal Studios Florida is transformed into a macabre, eerie world filled with multi-sensory experiences designed with the sole purpose of scaring you to death.
I think what's interesting about Universal's approach to a Halloween celebration is that they're drawing from two very distinct traditions: the use of shadow, the things you don't see, and the more modern technique of showing you more than you ever wanted to see.
You should have seen the blood.
I like to use the air cannons in haunted houses because you can really push a group of people through the rooms. Of course, a few rat hoses and snake hoses. Dental drills are always very fun to use. I use blood pumps so that the heart beats. We use a lot of foam and latex and slimy gelatin to provide that ooze for those wounds.
People like to be scared because it's the only way in this society I think you can release all that emotion. At Universal Studios, we're using 400 actors. We have 4 haunted houses. We have millions of mazes. We have people in every cranny and crevice trying to scare you. Everybody needs to be able to go, ah! And then walk out and just go, oh, that was really cool.
We talked to some of the thousands of people at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights to find out firsthand how they really feel.
My heart is still beating. I'm shaking. My friends left me behind. People are coming at you in every direction, and they run after you and they try to grab you.
Spooky! that is what I like the best.
I think screams are contagious, and there is a kind of an almost primitive ritual that happens when people get together to witness some terrifying characters. And you notice people always come out of these things smiling. I mean, they're never stunned. I mean, it's like you watch the people getting off of a roller coaster. They don't look like they've been drained and battered. They've had the time of their lives.
Over the last half hour, we've witnessed the evolution of the horror experience. From original silent films such as The Phantom of the Opera, through the gruesome reality of Rob Bottin's work in The Thing, to the live event at Universal Studios, Florida, audiences have been treated to new levels of realism with each passing year.
So, whether you're enjoying your Halloween at the park, at the movies, or just going out for a local trick-or-treat, remember to give your friends a fright. After all, it might be just what they need.